I think this movie's going to suck. Total gaunch. It's going to be horrible. It's literally going to be a wadded up piece of gray gum that was stuck underneath your desk on your first day of school that you accidentally touched and then felt violated and dirty for touching it. That's literally what this is going to be. Hey guys, Script here with another video, and I just saw this article. It's from a little while ago, but it has to do with this Dawn of the Jedi movie, which I'm super not looking forward to in this in the sense that I've said it all along. Like, one of the things that makes fantasy, and in this case, I guess sci-fi fantasy, so intriguing in a lot of ways is the mystery behind it. For example, you take something like The Lord of the Rings, and there's stuff that goes on, like with Gandalf and some of the things that happen that are mysterious, and you're not fully sure, and you're not fully necessarily sure who or what was responsible, for example, Gandalf coming back after he died fighting the Balrog. So then there's the question, did he even really die? And they leave a little bit of that open. And I know we want answers to a lot of things in Star Wars, but one of the things I think that we don't need an answer to, and that it's beneficial for it to be mysterious, is the Force. They're going to make this Dawn of the Jedi movie where they're going to kind of explain the origin of the Force, or the origin of the first Force user, which I'm scared is going to take away the mystery of the Force, and kind of will lose that. I always thought of the Force as sort of this unseen thing, as it's described. It's part of all living things and all that stuff. But whatever its agenda is unknown. And it's there, and obviously the dark side is a manipulation of it and using it for their own purposes instead of using it for what it wants to be used for. So hence, balance in the Force, at least, for the first 30 plus years of Star Wars, was light side dominance. You're going to destroy the Sith, bring balance to the Force, all those things. We all know about that stuff in Revenge of the Sith from Obi-Wan. So this is an interesting article here talking about it. Gives you kind of the background into like the Legends version, and the Legends version doesn't really reveal the mystery of the Force. It's almost like just like kind of a story. Anyways, let's just look into this and see if there's anything we can draw from this in terms of what this Dawn of the Jedi movie, if they ever actually make it, is going to be. And again, I say this, I've said this before, James Mangold is directing this. James Mangold also hopped on board to the absolute travesty that is Indiana Jones 5. So this guy is a filmmaker, second, and a do what Kathleen Kennedy wants and push the feminization of male-dominated IPs agenda. And for the life of me, I can't understand why they did that. Again, sorry to sort of go off on a rabbit trail, but you look at Barbie, it's a female-centric IP, and it made a ton of money from women. Why don't they just focus on female-centric IPs instead of changing male-centric IPs into female-centric IPs? Again, that doesn't mean that boys can't like Barbie. It doesn't mean that girls can't like Star Wars, but just an overall sort of more dominated space by those two sexes. Anyways, James Mangold will direct Star Wars movie Dawn of the Jedi, which will be different from the same era seen in Legends. The film will focus on the first Jedi in Star Wars canon, just like Dawn of the Jedi explored the Order's origins in Legends. And the different continuities, mean that Mangold can't take the same approach. However, there are ways the Dawn of the Jedi movie can take inspiration from the old expanded universe, which was rebranded Legends before Dawn of the Jedi could truly flourish. Even so, it'll be just as interesting to see what new elements, if any, Mangold incorporates. The Dawn of the Jedi, what we know about the Star Wars origin movie. Star Wars has teased a long history of the Jedi Order ever since Ben Kenobi claimed that for 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic. This naturally raised several questions about how the Jedi Order began, how the Republic came to be, and how both changed over such a long period of time. Mangold's movie can continue expanding on this era, offering Star Wars a new chance to explore the early Jedi, making it important to understand Dawn of the Jedi and Legends, and how it will shape a different approach in canon. And I don't mind necessarily seeing sort of the origins of the Jedi Order, but the Force still needs to remain mysterious. The Jedi Order explained. Yeah, this is the Legends version. In Star Wars Legends, the Jedi Order is preceded by the Jedi Order, which began over 36,000 years before A New Hope. The mysterious Thoyor, 8 pyramid-shaped ships of unknown origin, traveled the galaxy and called out any Force sensitive, which I thought was kind of weird. I thought that the Force sensitives existed, and then some spaceships called them out. I thought the Force was part of all living beings and was this overarching thing. Why would a bunch of man-made ships be calling Force sensitives? It just, to me, it didn't jive with the whole sort of OT explanation of what the Force was. Species from several worlds heard the call and boarded the Thoyor, which brought them into the galaxy's core to the Force-rich planet Thion. or Tython, excuse me. The 8 smaller ships gather on the 9th and largest Thoyor, depositing the travelers before dispersing across the planet. The Force Sensors began studying the energy field that had brought them together, and over the next 10,000 years, they grew into the Jedi Order. I think Tython was the planet in Mando that Mando put Grogu on that ball, and he like used the Force to like send a signal across space, and then Luke heard it, I guess. I think that's Tython, I'm pretty sure. Which, of course, in the Mando was another sort of Northern California desert set, so it's good and cheap to film there. Kind of did lots of that in all the Star Wars shows to make them cheaper. Yeah, again, I don't really get the whole like there's Force sensitives everywhere, but like nobody knows about the Force, and this is the origin of the Force, or is it just the origin of the Jedi? So does this mean that there were Force sensitives like picking things up in the Force and doing stuff? I don't know. I mean, if you're gonna do the Dawn of the Jedi, wouldn't you go back to the actual first person that ever used the Force? You're just kind of starting years ahead already, so there's still a whole bunch to explain. So I'm not entirely sure how that works, but personally, like I said, I wasn't a huge fan of the Legends version of this. Like ships finding Force sensitives and bringing them to place, and they just all willingly go, and then it's a dangerous planet, and they have to be near one of the ships, or something bad could happen to them, and it's just like all about these ships. I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of that, but whatever. By 25,793 BBY, the Jedi Order had grown and created temples all across Tython, each one centered around a Thoyor. Because Tython was so dangerous to those who couldn't touch the Force, many left Tython over the years to settle other worlds in the system, with some dreaming of one day venturing back into the larger galaxy. Unlike the later Jedi Order, the Jedi of this time firmly believed in maintaining a balance between light and dark sides of the Force. There you go. That's another reason I don't like the Legends version. That's not balance. Like, guys, why does everyone outside of George Lucas insist on writing balance in the Force as light and dark when George explicitly says once you go down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny? No one in the Jedi Order in the prequels was trying to be light and dark. If balance was light and dark, why were there like 1,000 million Jedi in Attack of the Clones and none of them were practicing light and dark? That doesn't make sense. Like, these guys were around for thousands of years, but they were too stupid to realize that was what balance was? Come on. And then Revenge of the Sith, like I said, you're supposed to destroy the Sith to bring balance to the Force. Sith is a manipulation and twisting of the living Force for selfish reasons. That's not balance. That's just being a dick. Like, I just don't understand why this is so hard. And Screen Rant does use that terminology a lot because that's what Disney wants. Disney wants to move into the gray area because they think it's easier to write stories, and they want to move away from sort of the evil and good and the traditional stories of our culture that go back, 1,000 years in Europe, where we have sort of the good and the bad, and the Knights of the Round Table, and they're fighting dragons, and there's all this stuff, and they want just this giant lump of gray mud, and then they can just sort of have anybody do anything, and there's no rules, and it just doesn't matter. That's not what Balance in the Force is in Star Wars. You can make up a new IP that has some Force thing and call that, but that's not what it is, and these articles constantly push this propaganda. That's not what Balance in the Force is. It wasn't in any of the movies. Now, I also know that Dave Filoni really likes that because there's an interview with, who's the guy that voiced Ezra? That actor, Freddie Prinze Jr. And he's all like, oh, well, I hung out with Dave Filoni, and Dave Filoni's George's protege, and Dave Filoni said that that's what Balance in the Force is. That doesn't make any sense based on George's writing. Dave Filoni's really into that. Like, he was into the whole Bendu and all this stuff, and it's all about mixing dark and light, and they had the Mortis gods. But even then, the father's like, son, don't use the dark side. And he used the dark side, and then the father's like, okay, and then he killed himself, and then everybody died. It's pretty clear what Star Wars is about. It's a good versus evil thing. George has said that many times in many interviews, and balance is light dominance, and that is just the way it is. But I'm scared. I mean, they hinted at this in The Last Jedi with that mural of whatever, the Jedi Prime that's half dark and half light. No, dude. The story is somebody came along later on, a Jedi came along later, was a selfish dick like Anakin and ended up screwing everything up and twisting and manipulating the dark side. Dawn of the Sith. There you go. Because he was selfish. Because despite the fact that you might be a Jedi, and despite the fact that you have the Force, you still have to fight off the normal human nature to want to do selfish things. That's what it is about. That's what George even says. He says these are timeless themes of humanity, of people, of the earth, of, no matter how much influence you have, no matter how much you want to be good, you always have to fight that urge to be selfish. So that's not balance. That's just being a dick. Anyway, balance of light and dark sides of the Force, never delving too deep into either one. So you're just a schmo. However, schism would later lead to the Force wars between those who followed Asla, the light, and Bogan, the dark. Okay, so if they're all trying to be balanced, why would there be a light guy and a dark guy? Like, wouldn't they want to be balanced too? See what I'm saying? He goes dark because he's selfish, not because he's balanced in the Force. Like, it's so stupid. While the era before the Republic had been explored through guidebooks, the first stories set in this time were the Dawn of the Jedi books and comics. Star Wars Dawn of the Jedi by Ostrander and Dersima began in 2012 with number 0 issue, which I have read. It gave an overview of the Jedi Order and other elements of the upcoming series. They focused on the Jedi Order fighting the Rakatan Infinite Empire, first introduced in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic video game. Dawn of the Jedi ran for 15 issues across 3 story arcs, ending when the Star Wars comic license was acquired by Marvel. The comic also received a tie-in novel called Star Wars Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void by Tim Levin. Set around the same time as the run's first story arc, the book followed Jedi Ranger Lenore Brock on a mission to stop her mad brother, whose quest to leave the Tython system threatened to create a black hole that would destroy everything. Not a fan. A Dawn of the Jedi novel meant that this era could be expanded in greater detail and focus on the life of one Jedi instead of several like in the comic. These stories are great for those eager to prepare for Dawn of the Jedi in canon. Not really. What we know about the Jedi's Order in canon. The Jedi Order's origin in canon was explored in Star Wars The Last Jedi when Rey found Luke Skywalker, the first Jedi temple on Ahch-To. Luke claimed the temple was built 1,000 generations prior to house the original Jedi text, and the temple contained a mural of a being known as the Prime Jedi. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The Jedi eventually settled in on worlds such as Ossus, Jedha, and Elam, and over time they became the Guardians of the Galactic Republic. After that, much of the Order's early history is similar to Legends, with a schism called the 100-Year Darkness leading to the creation of the Sith. Because they were selfish and bad, and so they manipulated and distorted the Force. It was not balanced. How will Indiana Jones 5 directors compare? Despite the differences between each timeline, there are many ways that Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi movie can be similar to Legends. The mural of the Jedi Prime shows them in a perfect balance between... That's not balance. They're really pushing that. Something Luke tried to explain to Rey. Yeah, which was stupid too. That's not what it is. Like, bro, there was like 1,000. It's so dumb. In fact, I was just watching that YouTube channel last night. He was joking about it. The one where it's like a deep fake Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon and Anakin watching like episodes of shows, and they basically make jokes about that too. How it's like, dude, there was like 20,000 years of peace, and you guys are gonna like throw it all away for 30 years of an empire? Really? You're going to tell me that balance is dark and light when there was like 20,000 years of peace? Or 20,000 years of light side Jedi being guardians of the galaxy to keep the Sith at bay? No, balance is both. It's so stupid. And the other thing, from a story standpoint, it's much simpler and better to write stories with a very clear good and evil thing, especially with Star Wars it's geared towards young teenagers, like 12 to whatever, 14-year-olds. Let's just muddy the waters for those kids. Like, I'm telling you, if they keep going down this road, the IP is going to die, because we want stories with heroes and villains and epic battles and real stakes. We don't want gray areas that are all just kind of meaningless. That makes it suck. That's why people have been writing good and evil stories for literally 1,000 years, if not longer. It makes me so mad the way they think this is balanced. Something Luke tried explaining to Rey so that the early Jedi in canon may share the same views as the Jedi Order in Legends. And this makes me think they're going to go the gray Jedi route with Rey's Jedi Order. They are. They're going to make it both. And they're going to say, well, she used lightning and she did this. She used dark side tactics and that's good. That's what they're going to do, guys. I'm telling you. The Jedi in canon was also preceded by the Dai Bendu, the same order that the Jedi took inspiration from in Legends, meaning Mangold could take inspiration from Legends elements too. In Legends, the Jedi Order was born on Tython, which is seen being depicted in The Mandalorian. Okay, so maybe that was the one I meant. So this planet could be explored again. Of course, there will be there will be major differences because the Jedi Order on Tython over 36,000 years old. Before New Hope, Mangold's movies implied to take place 25,000 years in the past, and the Dai Bendu connection shows the Jedi could have existed in some form before that, but it's clear that it won't be the same in canon. The other notable differences is that the Jedi Order began on Ahch-To in canon, as opposed to Tython in Legends, so even if the Tython system shows up again, it won't be the same as in Legends. Since Dawn of the Jedi will build off elements introduced in The Last Jedi, why would you build off elements introduced in The Last Jedi, though? How dumb are these people? Everyone hated that movie. The amount of people that like The Last Jedi is such a tiny group of people. Everybody hated it. Why would you do anything based on that? But they can't help themselves. Their egos are so big, they can't. And that was, I think, their whole thing. I think Dave sat down with Kathy and said, ultimately, we want to make balance in the Force, light and dark, and just have a bunch of gray. You know when you take like a whole bunch of pieces of gum when you were a kid? Like you took like a pink piece of Bubblicious, and then you took some like purple Big League Chew, and then you threw in some like yellow, and then some like juicy fruit, and then like you chewed it up for a while, and after like 10 minutes, it was just a big lump of gray crap. That's what they're doing. They're creating a big lump of gray crap. I'm guaranteeing you. And they're doing it because they think it gives them more options story-wise, but it actually doesn't. It actually doesn't. It just makes stories more boring. The most obvious is Rey's New Jedi Order movie, where her possession of the original Jedi text may lead her to hold a similar view of balance as the first Jedi. This would also be an effect. Yeah, because throw out to 20,000 years, man. Those guys were idiots for 20,000 years. What a bunch of idiots. Obi-Wan's an idiot. Yoda, what a moron. 900-year-old Yoda talking about, dark side's going to overcome you if you go near it, and you should just be light. Like, what an idiot Yoda is. Stupid idiot. Qui-Gon, what a moron. They're all idiots. It's just... This is their way of just destroying everything that's come before. So that they think fans will be like, oh, the new stuff, the Disney stuff's way better. They took it in this direction. And then ignore everything that happened before. Just ignore it. 20,000, it doesn't matter. Bunch of idiots. It's so stupid. This would also be an effective way to reveal more about the Jedi Order's early history, showing how it continued to grow after the events of Mangold's movie. How Mangold's Star Wars movie will influence the events to come remains to be seen. It'll be fascinating to see how the Dawn of the Jedi era in canon compares to Legends. No, I mean, I think this article is correct in the sense that they are going to go down that route. It is going to be this stupid gray Jedi crap, which is dumb and violates everything George made. It makes absolutely no sense. And I'm not even saying George didn't approve of a certain amount of like the whole like Bendu thing and certain things in Clone Wars, but at no point did he make the assertion at all that Jedi were supposed to be light and darkness balanced and mixed. It's always been the opposite. It was always you were taking a massive gamble. The seduction of the dark side was going to win you over. People, that's literally the whole story of the OT. That Luke is extremely tempted to succumb to the dark side in the end, but he doesn't. And that's what saves everybody. And that's what brings true balance to the Force, because the Sith were destroyed. This is not rocket science. And yet all these people and Disney are trying to manipulate us into thinking that like that's not what it's supposed to be. And I think they're going to use the Dawn of the Jedi to do that. I think young people, if they actually watch it, most of them won't, might actually get behind that because they're young and influential. And if this is the new thing, they're going to be into it. But right now, young people aren't watching Star Wars. So again, I ask people, who is this for? Who are these shows made for? Because kids aren't really watching Star Wars anymore. The people that are still watching Star Wars, the younger people, are the ones that grew up on Clone Wars. So they might kind of get into this to some extent. But the vast majority of people that are watching Star Wars now are older people. People in their 30s and 40s. Maybe even 50s. And they're leaving. Well, they're not watching. I shouldn't have said that. They're leaving because of what Disney's doing. So who is this for? I guess like the small percentage of kids that parents are still into Disney Star Wars that'll get them to watch this, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, guys, that's my rant. I think this movie's going to suck. Total gaunch. It's going to be horrible. It's literally going to be a wadded up piece of gray gum that was stuck underneath your desk on your first day of school that you accidentally touched and then felt violated and dirty for touching it. That's literally what this is going to be. So anyways, thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for watching. If you do like this content, please like and subscribe. And check out anything else on my channel there, and have a really good day.